So we're going to talk about some fall chores that we can be doing in the garden before we pack everything away for the winter. Right now we're looking at about mid-October, and now's the time to start thinking about doing some of those. But make sure you're enjoying the fall and out in your garden, and there's still things to see and do. And so make sure you're enjoying your time outside before we're locked in for the winter. So one of the areas that we need to talk about is lawn care. And we've just gone through a really dry summer, very hot summer, one of the hottest ones on record. And there's certain things that you can be doing with your lawn now before spring that's going to help it make it through the winter and just be that much more healthy come the spring. So these are some of the tasks you might want to consider doing before putting your rakes and lawnmowers and that away. And the first one is dethatching your lawn. And we talk about that's usually a chore that we do in the spring as well, but it is good reasons to do it in the fall. And one of the reasons is we've been cutting our lawn all summer long. And thatch is actually the decomposing grass blades that are kind of cut, they're not fully decomposed back into the soil. So if you were to dig up a cross section of your lawn, you would actually see right below the green blades, you would see kind of a mossy looking area and then the roots just below that. So we're looking directly below the grass blades. And really to tell if you have thatch, that's a good way is just kind of dig up a square foot of your lawn and look at the cross section. The other way is just taking a fan rake, and if you're getting a lot of brown stuff pulling out of the lawn without doing a lot of heavy raking, then you probably do have a thatch problem. And thatch isn't a bad thing. You do want some thatch in your lawn. So they say if it's more than 1/4 of an inch thick, then you do have more of an issue with the thatch. And one reason why the thatch or the decomposing debris, the leaves, the grass blades, why they might not be decomposing as quickly is if you're using a lot of high nitrogen fertilizers. And if you have like those more of the chemical synthetic based fertilizers where you see like 28-4-8 or something as the 3 numbers, if you're using very high nitrogen, the organisms that help break down the thatch and help things decompose don't like that high nitrogen in there. So they're usually not as active in those areas. So you can get a buildup of thatch if you're using high nitrogen. Also, if you have very acidic soil. In Niagara here, we're more lime-based, and so we tend to be more alkaline than acidic. And so the acidic soil doesn't seem to be as much of an issue for us. But if you're in an area, or maybe you have a lot of evergreen trees or oak trees in the area that the needles and leaves do make the soil acidic, you might find that you have more of a thatch problem in those areas as well. So the easy way to remedy the thatch is there is special dethatching rakes. And they're like the hard garden rakes, hard-toothed garden rakes, but the teeth are more diamond-shaped as opposed to a hook shape. And you can pull that through. It's quite an exercise doing it. It does take a lot of upper arm muscle, but you can be doing that yourself. Even if you just take the fan rake and do a good raking through that way, you'll pull up a lot of the thatch. Or you can also be hiring a lawn care company to come in and do that for you. But as I said, some thatch is good. So we said if it's more than 1/4 of an inch, there's a problem. But also you don't want there to be too little thatch on the other hand. So you don't want to completely strip your lawn bare of thatch. What the thatch does, because it's kind of a mossy, corky layer on top of the roots, is it shades the root system. So the sun isn't baking the soil directly, and so it's not drying out the ground. So some thatch actually means that you have to water your lawn a bit less. So that's how we're always looking for ways to save water. And also the thatch it just keeps the moisture in there, but it also kind of holds the nutrients by the root system. So you don't want the nutrients when you fertilize just to be drenched right through into the soil and past the root system. So some thatch will actually hold the nutrients in place. Too much again, we're talking over that 1/4 inch thickness, then it stops the nutrients from getting into the ground, and that's when it becomes a problem. So just by raking, whether you're using a thatch rake or just a good fan rake, and just kind of pulling out a lot of that brown stuff. Why we want to do that at this time of year is that we do want some of that fall rain. So if we have gone through a dry summer, you want as much rain to soak into the lawn as possible, just to keep the roots healthy until the next season. So it's a great time to do it for that reason. And it also cuts down on the amount of mold problems that you might have in the spring as well. And that's why we also rake the leaves off the lawn, is just to cut down on any fungus from overwintering on the lawn area. So thatching is definitely something after a hot summer that you should be considering doing. Another job that we always think of as more of a spring task for the lawn is aerating the lawn. And again, with a dry summer, it's important to do this, especially if you have a heavy clay soil. And basically by aerating, what we're doing is either taking a machine, again, a lawn care company would come in with a large machine to take out cores of soil. You can get special little rakes that you can use if you have a smaller area. But you're probably looking at hiring somebody to come in and aerate for you. But with aerating, they take little cores of soil. So the core of soil might be about the size of your little finger, maybe an inch, inch and a half in length. And they remove those cores from the grass area. And what that does is, first of all, allows the rain to come into the ground. If you have a really heavy clay soil, you know it's hard to get a shovel in. It's also hard for the rain to sink into the soil. So by opening up these hole areas, it allows a place for the water to run, so everything's getting a good drink before winter. And it also gets oxygen back to the roots. Clay soil is so tough because the particles are so small that they fit tight together. There's no air gaps in between particles. And if the roots aren't getting the oxygen they need to grow, your lawn's going to be struggling as well. So it does the two jobs. It allows moisture in, and it gets oxygen back in. Sometimes when you aerate and those cores have been pulled out, you could even just take some good triple mix, even just a good screen topsoil. You could also be using cattle or sheep manure composted, and just kind of do a top dressing, what we call it, and just spread a thin layer of soil on top. And that good soil then is going to fill in those whole areas, but it's a well-draining soil, and it's also getting good soil into it. The worms will love that and come into it, and they'll start mixing that in with the clay. So it's just a good way to improve the soil conditions of your lawn. So these cores are removed out of the soil, and a lot of people think you need to rake up the cores. It looks like little goose visited your lawn and pooped all over your lawn. So it does leave little cores on top. But after a rainfall or two, usually those will dissolve back into the lawn. So you really don't need to be raking up those cores. But if you do find you have a really heavy clay, and if you're in a new subdivision, I know in this area, in the Niagara area, most new subdivisions have very heavy clay soil. Very little has been done to improve the soil before the sod was laid. So it's just a good way of getting your lawn growing healthier, is by aerating. And we do want the moisture to penetrate into the soil, especially in the fall and even the melting snow in the winter and in the spring, and it just gets your lawn off to a good start for the next year. So you might want to consider aerating your lawn. So if you've aerated your lawn in the spring, maybe you don't need to do it this fall. It doesn't hurt to do it. It's not, you can't do it too much. So you could do it spring and fall both. Or just if it's something that you haven't done before and your lawn's just not as vigorous as it used to be, or just not as healthy as you like it to be, it might be a task that you want to consider. At least even once a year, once every 2 years. Just aerating and getting some good soil in there, and just trying to break up that clay soil that you have. Fall is also a great time to be overseeding the lawn. Maybe you have an existing lawn that throughout the summer you've lost areas, it's browned up and hasn't really greened back up coming into spring. Maybe it's just a thin lawn that you want to make it look thicker and just be healthier. And overseeding is usually best when it's a little bit cooler outside. So again, it's something we could do in the spring. But right now, when the daytime temperatures are, between 12, 15 degrees, is a great time for germination for grass seed. So even mid-October, early October, putting down the grass seed, usually it's up within a 2-week period and will overwinter. If some of the grass seed hasn't come up, if we do get an early deep freeze, that grass seed will usually remain there till spring and then still germinate in the spring. But what overseeding your lawn does is thicken up your lawn. The more empty spots you have in your lawn, the more chances of weeds filling in that spot. I always say wherever nature sees an empty spot, it fills it in with a weed. So if you have been experiencing a lot more weeds in your lawn and that, by overseeding both spring and fall, again, you can't really do it too much. So both those times would be great times. Once the grass seed is down, you usually have to keep it moist. Evenly moist. You don't want to flood it and have the seed float away, but just kind of keep it evenly moist for at least a week or two while it's starting to germinate. So again, fall, we usually have a bit more rains coming down. The soil has a bit more moisture into it, and the days are just cooler. So it cuts down on the amount of watering you have to do to get that going. But as it comes up, it fills in those spaces. It's just that much less space. They say even crabgrass seed, and I've seen a lot of crabgrass this summer with it being so hot and dry, crabgrass seed can remain dormant in the soil for up to 25 years. But as soon as that soil becomes disturbed or the sunlight hits the soil and warms it up enough, the crabgrass will start to grow. And that's usually the fastest sign that you see as soon as you get a sparse lawn, is that the crabgrass will be the first to come up. And the crabgrass has those thicker blades. Usually grass blades will come kind of straight out of the ground. The crabgrass kind of comes out in kind of a fan shape. So if you're seeing a lot of bare spots, if you're fighting more weeds all the time, instead of using a lot of herbicides on it, the best way is to thicken up your lawn and just get a nice lush carpet, and the grass will choke out a lot of the weeds that are coming. So a perfect time to do it. Before I seed, I usually like to cut the lawn a little bit shorter than when I've been cutting it all summer, and just allows the seed to get down to the soil when you're spreading the seed out. So cut your lawn a little bit shorter. Maybe give it a light fan raking just to loosen up that crust of soil. Grass seeds don't need to be buried or under so much soil. They can be put right on top of the soil. But it does help if you can loosen up that soil to begin with. So cut the grass short, give it a nice fan rake, and then just broadcast the seed over top of it. Or if you're seeding a new lawn, maybe you've just into a new home that hasn't had a lawn yet, go through the same procedure. Make sure that there's some good soil down on top of that hard soil that the builder's given you, and make sure you have a couple inches of good topsoil or triple mix down, and kind of level off the area, rake it a bit finer, and then just cast the seed on it. The birds tend to know when you're seeding the lawn. They're up there in the wires watching you. So you can kind of cover it up with a little bit of light soil afterwards if you want to hide up some of the seed. But don't be putting your seed down 2-3 inches at all. It can be right at the surface and still germinate. And once it's down, just keep it evenly moist. And usually within 10 to 14 days, you'll start seeing the signs of the new blades coming up. So whether you had the thin lawn or maybe starting a new lawn, fall is a great time to do that. And just get your lawn as thick as possible, and you'll find your maintenance is a lot lower. Also, if you find that your lawn is thinning out, it's also can be a sign of you're not mowing often enough. The more regular you mow your lawn, the thicker the lawn will be. And we kind of talk about that when we talk about pruning plants. When you prune a plant, it develops more stems. The same is true with grass. Every time you cut the blades multiply. So if you were to mow your lawn once a week, your lawn will stay thicker than if one time you're 3 weeks mowing, the next time maybe 2 weeks. If you're kind of irregular with your mowing times, and sometimes it doesn't even look like the lawn needs much cutting, but if you still cut it, the neighbors will talk a little bit, but it will actually make your lawn thicker. So just the amount of times we mow the lawn during the summer and that makes a difference in the thickness of the lawn. So just some helpful hints as we go along and try to keep our lawns as healthy as possible. In the fall, you can also be fertilizing your lawn. Usually in the spring and even in the summer, we're using a fertilizer high in nitrogen, so high in that first number, and that's great to help promote new growth in that. But at this time of year, we're not looking to promote new growth. We don't need it to be as green as possible. We're wanting to really promote the root growth. So most of your fall, winter fertilizers that you'll see, sometimes they're called like a step 3, or there'll be a spring, summer, fall series of fertilizers. You'll see that they're higher in the last 2 numbers, so in the phosphorus, and usually highest in the potassium. Quite often a fall fertilizer might have the numbers 4, 8, 9, or something like that. So you definitely don't want to be using your high nitrogen fertilizer that you used in the spring, but use something higher in the last numbers. And that just maintains the overall health of your grass and your grass roots for the winter time, so it can get off to a great start in the summer. So when you fertilize in the fall, you're usually looking at, but the last time you're cutting your lawn would be the time you put down your fall fertilizer. So you're usually looking end of October. I know last year I was still cutting my lawn into November, but you're looking probably end of October, mid-November would be the time that you can put down your last fall fertilizer. Some of the lawn fertilizers will also have a weed killer in it. So if you're finding you do have a lot of dandelions and plantain and certain weeds in your lawn, as long as they're still healthy and growing, you can put down like a fall weed and feed to help control some of the weeds for spring. So it's still a lot of chores to do with your lawn before you put your tools away. And make sure you're raking up all those leaves that fall on from the trees onto your lawn. If the leaves remain there, remain wet for the winter, you can get a lot more what they call snow mold or different spring molds into your lawn. So by raking those leaves off, and we'll talk on another video what you can actually do with those leaves instead of just throwing them out. Make sure you're cleaning up any debris on the lawn before the snow starts to fly. So when you're looking at fall lawn care, basically there's 5 things you want to consider doing with your lawns. The first one we talked about was dethatching. Get rid of the brown grass that's still lying in your lawn. The next one was aerating, removing cores of soil out. We want it to be overseeding, getting that lawn thicker and denser so we can choke out the weeds. The 4th thing we want to do with our lawns in the fall is be fertilizing, and look at a fertilizer that's higher in the last number, in the potassium. And the last thing we need to do with our lawns is make sure we're cleaning up the debris. Just before the ground freezes and that, get rid of any of the leaf debris or plant debris that might be on there, some limbs. So if you can do these 5 things with your lawn before winter sets in, you'll start off the new year with a great lawn that's healthy and ready to go for the summer.